I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with DeMane Davis, Director on Queen Sugar. DeMane, you directed the last two episodes leading up to the series finale. Were you conscious or could you sense that the show was coming to an end when you were on set again, and what was that like?
Oh yeah. So first of all, I rewatched my two episodes and then Ava's beautiful finale before this interview, and then I had to touch myself up because I wept so hard, like ugly cry. You could definitely, it was palpable that it was the end of the show. Everyone was emotional. They were present. They were excited to do the work and a little melancholy. But I think the themes of the show, they all culminated so beautifully. I was honored that Ava, requested that I come back. And it was really full circle for me since I got my start directing for television through Ava on the second season of Queen Sugar, and then I was producing director on the third. So to be there with those people, to see those storylines all be woven together so beautifully was incredible. And a lot of, I didn't cry during, but definitely once I watched the episodes and watching the finale live, I live tweeted it. I just wept and wept. So beautifully brought together.
Yeah, it really was. And, given that you were producer on season 3 and you directed a few episodes in season 2 and 3, talk me through coming back and returning to the fold. What was that? What was behind that when Ava said, look, we want you to come back?
I think her intent for, you have to ask her certainly, but I think her intent was to have a lot of different directors who had directed before come back for the 7th season. So I was just so completely floored to get that call and to be available. And of course I would make myself available if I wasn't. So it just felt like going home. That cast and that crew are so incredible. They're so dedicated. And really whenever I'm on set, I'm trying to replicate the experience that I had on Queen Sugar, which is that everyone is completely dedicated. Everyone is ready to play. And in a situation where, Ava gave me my start as a director in television and all of my other, I call them my Queen Sugar sister directors, having that cast and crew know that this is a director who has not yet directed for television, but we're here at the service of this female director, at the service of the script. It's just such a wonderful environment to get to grow and play in and get to create in. And so I'm constantly trying to recreate that experience on every set that I have the opportunity to go to.
Yeah, like Ava DuVernay, she has really built such a beautiful reputation in the industry, not only for her creativity, but I always hear about how people love working with her. And I'm curious, first of all, when she did invite you to direct on the show, it sounds like an obvious question, but how did Ava really change your life?
Well, I always say that Ava put me in a rocket ship, and I'm forever grateful, and I'm never coming down. I had directed a couple of independent feature films. I had directed about 70 commercials. I had been to Sundance, I had been to Edinburgh, and I was just a freelance copywriter. I went back to what I knew, but still was, writing scripts when I got the call from Ava to direct on Queen Sugar. So she literally gave me my career to give me this opportunity. The fact that she and Oprah saw fit to do something like this and say, oh, I'd like to work with all female directors. What do you think about that? The fact that they, together decided that, yeah, we should do this and it's going to be a great thing. It changed the lives of me and my sister directors. There are 41 other directors who are now, as we call it, booked and busy. So she gave us that opportunity. She helped us understand that this was something that we could do. And on set with, as a producing director on set on season 3, I would always save this, like if the director sort of maybe felt a little overwhelmed, like, okay, there's this amount of time, there's this to do it. The cast and crew were here, we're at your disposal. You can do this. If they ever got a look in their eye, they're kind of like, I would always say, Ava thinks you can do it. That's why she picked you. And that was always like the last thing I would say. And that was the thing that would send them over the top. And they'd be like, yeah, okay, right. Okay. Ava thinks I can do it. I can do it. So, yeah, she gave us that opportunity, gave us our careers.
That's a really great note because, yeah, Ava thinks you can do it. Then what are you doing? Get up. Let's get
Yeah,
on with it. Let's
pretty
do
much.
this. Well,
Let's
I only know from what I have seen with what Ava has done in the past, and of course this show. And I'm just curious, like, what do you most value about her creatively as an artist?
Mm. I value, I really value the fact that Ava, she's always said that, what's the creative, like you're an artist. She's always told us that we're artists, and she's always encouraged that creativity, and she's always encouraged us to push it. She is also incredible at casting. I was talking to Alexander Waithe, who played Dee and Naomi, because I got the privilege to be co-executive producer on that, producing director, which was also an Array production, Ava's production. And he is such an incredible person, such an incredible actor. She just assembles these incredible humans to do the work, who love to do the work, and who are dedicated and want to get it done. So, and there's an artistry to that. You know what I mean? To picking and finding and identifying that right person and putting them together as a part of this puzzle so that we can all move forward together and create. She's just such a deft hand at that. And then, of course, rewatching the finale of Queen Sugar is just so, I remember watching it. I was directing an episode of The Girls on the Bus for Greg Berlanti and Rita Mimoun for in New York. And thankfully had an early day off with prep. So I was able to watch the finale, and man, those first few scenes, just those wordless, beautiful slow motion scenes. I was just like, Ava, this is gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Who are you, Ava? Like, that's incredible. I know she's really one of a kind. She's amazing. So episode 11, We Can Be. I want to talk about that for a little while. That was co-written by Ava, Karen Grenade. There's a lot of scenes that I really loved, but I really liked how the show gave us, well, we were able to see Betty, and played by Vanessa Bell Calloway, who I really love as an actor as well. So we get some context, particularly regarding the Sam Landry storyline. And then by the end, Betty hands back the land that Sam stole to Ralph Angel. And it's a huge moment, but it's not overplayed. There's no melodrama really in this. It's authentic, it feels lived in, and yet I felt really emotional watching it. So talk me through those choices for that particular story arc.
Oh, first of all, thank you for that. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. First of all, when I learned that Vanessa Bell Calloway was going to be Betty, I just like to fall out. She is wonderful and so intuitive. And we just got along immediately. And the other thing that was great about her is she's a fan of the show. So she watched the show, she knew all the characters, she knew everything going on, and she felt this honor to be like, I get to be the person to like put Sam in his place. So she was just game and just ready to do it. And, her whole arc and what she was there for, it was tough because it's a mother-daughter relationship, right? So you have to, here's this new character and we don't know who she is, but we've always heard about her, and she's got to find a way to come back to get her daughter. And then it has to be authentic that she wants to give this land. So having all the other actors there sort of give their backstory, I thought the script was just beautifully constructed. And then just them sitting and talking and playing and living in those moments. I mean, they're all such great actors at the top of their game. But specifically for the scene, giving the land back, I knew as soon as I read the last line that she said in that scene, just keep going. When Ralph Angel says, it seems all these things are against us, and you blessing me with this land, I get this land back. It's like he's telling me, talking about his father, talking about Ernest, to keep going. And when she says, keep going, baby, just keep going, I said, I want to cover that over the shoulder, but up sort of kind of looking down, make sure we get her face as she's hugging him. So that was a special, just getting that shot. And Christian Tico Herrera, who's a phenomenal director of photography, one of my favorites now. Again, Ava assembling talent, just lit it beautifully. It was such a wonderful beat, to make sure that you could feel that, because I wanted it almost to be like she was sort of talking to Ernest, or that Ernest was watching them in that moment, and her giving the lamb back. So yeah, I think that they were all completely up to it. I think that the scene in the diner with her and David, who plays Sam Landry, was just like, it was so great, to see them together, like to see two pros kind of go at it, but also to see Sam Landry have some humanity. You could kind of see where he came from, because I had to say to him, like, look, we've got to buy that she loved you at some point. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of an unlovable dude. So he captured this softness, and the whisper of, you still take my breath away. I just, it was so powerful. It was so great to watch. Whenever I'm really engaged, I forget to call cut. And that was a moment right when I forget to call cut. I was like, oh yeah, cut. That's right. It's not TV. I just need some popcorn.
I know, right? And that scene was spectacular, because he doesn't have to be the mustache twirling villain, right? That is so boring.
Yes.
Like he's a human being, and that's what I love. Here's another thing. And by the way, that scene at the end with the hugging, I just love how Ralph Angel has already said we're climbing ladders that don't exist. And then for Betty to say, you just keep going, I think that was a really nice through line. So that's great script, and great that you're able to have those little touch points in the episode. But I want to tell you something. My favorite scene is actually at the USDA. And obviously this show puts women front and center, as it should, and that's a great thing. But Kofi as Ralph Angel, he is spectacular. And that whole scene when he's walking into an old boys club and has to summon up the courage to speak up. And I love how you choose this wide shot that slowly creeps in from behind and front, so that he can really deliver that moment. What kind of notes are you giving someone like Kofi in a scene like this, where he is kind of out of his element?
Well, it's and thank you. He had his portfolio that was zipped. And so he was like, can I have note cards? And I'm like, yeah, of course, and I never tell an actor no. I want them to be as engaged as possible. I want to talk about it. I want to make sure that they have all the things so they feel like they can do what they want to do. And I think what he did so beautifully is there's so much fiddling with the note cards. You can kind of get the sense that he was nervous at first and he felt out of place, especially when they dug at him and, they said, oh, that was when you were in prison, right? And he had to like take a beat and admit and say, yes, I was. But then he gained strength as he goes on without being, overbearing, understanding that like, that's not going to get me my way here. And so really for him, notes were just about, bring to it, because it was also a lot of dialogue. So it was more like bring that feeling of, if you have some nervousness, if you have, you're feeling like you're sweating a little bit, like, I want to see all that. So when we're in the wides, I'll always say to an actor and to Kofi, like, this is the widest I'm going to be. I always tell him the frame. So I'm like, feeling your body. If you feel something in your body, like, let's see it. That way, if he's tapping his foot a little bit, I make sure, okay, if there were time, maybe I would go in and I would get a close up of that. But it really wasn't necessary with him, because his eyes, his face, his body language, his voice, the tenor of his voice starting low, clearing his throat, and then gaining speed and getting power. And then finally, when he closed his eyes and he was like, threw his head back when she said, I'm going to investigate them. It was just, I got chills now, because just watching it, knowing what that meant in sort of the life of the series, that he gets to have that moment, was really incredible.
It really was. It's a beautiful scene. He's such a good actor.
So good.
Queen Sugar elevates a moving and important story about a Black family in Louisiana. with the gravitas of a high stakes family drama, right? So what I'm like Yellowstone and shows like that, it has that same gravitas. What legacy though do you think Queen Sugar will have on the TV landscape going forward?
Oh, man. I think, certainly it has a legacy of being the longest Black family drama on television, 1 hour family drama. I think it leaves a legacy of just knowing that these stories are worthy, knowing that there's an audience for them, knowing that this pace, that Ava created, that taking a breath, it's not a very cutty show. It's not a show that has a lot of bells and whistles and special equipment. It doesn't need it because it has these faces, it has this skin, it has this hair, and then it has these directors of photography, Antonio Calvach and Christian Tico Herrera, who know how to light that skin, who know how to get light into the eyes, and so that you see the depths of someone and you see the layers. And that's what I missed, like rewatching those episodes. I'm like, oh man, there's nothing like this. There's nothing else like this on television. And so then, for me, I have to say it's up to us. It's up to each of my Queen Sugar sister directors to go out there and create something, that speaks to and for an audience that maybe hasn't had the opportunity to see themselves the way that Queen Sugar allowed us to see ourselves on television.
That's right. And, one of the central themes of the show that it's explored over the years that I learned from the show is the legacy of the land and how the Bordelon family and their generational fight and struggle to keep the land of their forefathers is actually really rich material, not only for Black Americans, but Americans in general. It's part of this country's history. Why do you think that is such rich material that really hasn't been explored on TV, but hopefully now that Queen Sugar has done it, maybe we can look at more of it in future?
Yeah, I don't know why it's not explored as often. I'm very much looking forward to seeing a Native American show that speaks to that. I very much enjoy Reservoir Dogs, Reservation Dogs.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to other shows that show what that's like. I think another thing, talking almost about legacy, is that show kind of reminded us, is like, oh yeah, this is where food comes from. You know what I mean? It's like we're so far removed from it. Once you're in a restaurant, once you're at the takeout window, once you're not thinking, well, someone grew this, someone with their hands, someone, actually put their hands in soil and looked at it and smelled it. And yes, then other machines were involved, but that there were people involved that brought us this food and brought this food to the table, which I think, anytime that you can get a reminder about that, about where things came from, I think it helps you to have more reverence for it. I think it helps you to slow down a little bit and respect those things. And I don't think that that's a bad thing at all. So yeah, I absolutely hope that there are more shows out there that show that history and that show that legacy.
I totally agree. DeMane, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on some beautiful work on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.